Welcome back. Well, yes, as you see there, we do have Mr. Tunji Bello, who is the Commissioner, Water Resources and the Environment for Lagos State. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, yes, at least the environment is not new to you. So, but good to see that we've always talked about proactivity.
Yes.
What should we do? How should we approach some of this? And it's good to see that you've come up with this flood vulnerability assessment and mapping of Lagos using this GIS technique. And would there be any good news for people? Because some areas will still be flooded. So, yeah, you did address a press conference about that. So, what were the key issues now that we should focus on, as you've seen with this mapping?
Well, the key issue, thank you very much. I think the key issues for us is, first of all, to be enlightened, to know what is coming. We have almost about 270 to 275 days of rain coming, so in different parts of Lagos, and they are beginning this month. We have started seeing it. So basically, what should we do? We have started, on the part of the government, we have started the process already, trying to clean the canals to ensure that mobilize people, to ensure and sensitize them, to be prepared, and also to ensure that all the drainages are properly maintained. So we normally have four periods. We maintain drains. We do one in around April, another one in July, another one in September, and then towards the end of the year, we wrap up. So that's what we normally do. That's the normal preparation for the rain. But you also need to sensitize people. They must be quite aware of it, because as you are doing your own drains and so on, you know, the state government has its own part, the local government has its own part. We have three types of drainages in Lagos. We have this primary, secondary, and tertiary. Tertiary drains are the ones in front of your houses. Those are the ones, the local governments are responsible for those ones. Then the secondary and the primary, those are the responsibility of the state government. Those are the big canals you see cutting across the state and so on. And then you have some medium channels like in Apapa, Ikoyi, and you see them and so on. So those are the responsibility of the government. So we need to work together with the local government to ensure that there is synergy.
Okay, that local government component,
yes.
Have they been mandated, and are they responding? Because, I mean, primarily you see lots of people, they just, in clearing the drainages and the gutters, they bring in some of those, it's usually packed just right at the edge. And in many cases, they leave it there up until the rains. So has that mindset changed? That is the key.
That is the key. Well, that's why we are working with the local government now. We're already meeting. We are already cooperating with them and so on to see how these things, some of the debts they put out from the drains, they are quickly carted away. Okay. Normally, it's very difficult to take away those debts because they are very heavy. They can be very heavy for the canal because the water is still there. Yeah. So you have to allow it to dry a little before they are evacuated and so on. And that's why you find them, leaving them on the drains. But it can be done within 2 days. You cut them away. But most of the time, people forget them. So we are not going to allow that anymore. We need to work with the local government to ensure that they are quickly carted away.
But is there a way that, should they forget, people can easily call a number or notify someone somewhere to come for them?
Oh, of course, we have. We have a number, it's 0810-255-3775, which we are giving, which are also giving to people, so I can quickly call. If you find that they have cutted some silts outside the drains and they are not cutted away, and so you can quickly call that number. And so
can you take that number again, just briefly?
810-255-3775.
Okay. We'll probably put that on the screen somewhere. Yes. But for clarity, you've mentioned, some of the things that you do on a yearly basis. But for clarity, we've had this kind of, flood scenarios in Lagos for years. What are the lessons that we have learned over the years? What are the things that the vulnerabilities that people need to be aware of from their own part, from government's, part, and precautions that they need to take, as we enter this 200+ days of rain in the year? What are the lessons we've learned over the years?
Thank you very much. People, first of all, need to understand that Lagos is below the sea level. Now, the water table has even risen. There's a climate change around the world. Now, let me give you an example now. If you go to Lagos Island now, and we move towards the Ikoyi side, Osborne, you see that the water table has risen. Yeah. It's very difficult for water to even discharge. Since September last year, we've been trying to desilt part of Idumagbo, Jankara, Jadele area. The water is not going. In fact, the deputy governor led our team to visit some of these areas last Sunday. And if you go to Ilubirin side, that's the Lagoon side, you see that the water level has risen so much and so on, because the water from Niger Delay is not discharging, because the water table is still very high and has remained so. Why is that? Because we need to critically look at some of the developments we are doing particularly towards the Lagoon side, particularly around Banana Island, around Osborne, and so on. So we must look at it. Even during the last rainy season, part of Osborne was heavily flooded because the bottom of the water could not go out. And that is why recently, Mr. Governor actually had to, commission a study to look at, another study again, to look at the water table around the island area, so that to see if the effect of what is happening in Banana Island is affecting what is happening at Niger Delay, we need to critically look at it, examine it. Perhaps eventually we may have to stop, restrain development around that area so that water can discharge quickly. So these are some of the things that we need to let people know, particularly those who live in the island area. And also, people must themselves, they must understand that when you throw things into the drains and so on, they come back to you, in the sense that if it rains, you don't know how the rain might come back to you, because the drainages are well connected, they are interconnected across local government. If you think that to quickly get it away your debts, instead of giving it to the refuse collector, you don't want to pay, you dump it into the drains and so on, the water will come back to your house when it rains, because it blocks several canals all over the place, or several drainages and so on. So we must let people know this.
Right. Now, when you say 270 to 275 days of rain, I mean, that sounds like a big deal. But I'd like to know, is it in terms of volume? Because I know that's frequency, but what does that say about the volume? Does that mean that, yes, those areas, I mean, you see those areas in red, does that mean that, yes, they will be flooded, or it's just, well, the volume might not be as bad?
No, when you say 275, it doesn't mean that if it's raining in Ikeja, it will rain in Lagos Island. It could be intermittent, it could be, it might rain in some parts of Lagos, it might not rain. For instance, the recent rain we have had, we didn't have rain in some parts of Lagos. But we are just looking at the total number.
So that's maybe 4 days down. So we have like maybe 265 days since we've had 4 days.
So we have several days. And at times, maybe by the time you get to the peak period, around June, July, in fact, it has even changed now. You might even have a peak period around September, October. We didn't used to have rain around September, October. But now you have peak period around September, October now. It could be everywhere. You can't get to peak period. But the most important thing for us is to be prepared. Maybe in the past, in the last few years or so, it has not been, that preparation has not been adequate. But now, we want to make sure that they are quite adequate, just as we used to do in the past, maybe about 4 years ago. So, but now we are going back to that to ensure that everything is adequately taken care of.
So when you say preparations, if you can just go to this, this study that you did, I can see those areas in red. Just few areas are in green and yellow. And if you see that key there, red means high risk of flooding. So it's safe to say that almost the whole of Lagos is at the risk of flooding.
Exactly, because except, like I said, most of the highland, they are below the sea level. The higher part of Lagos is this area we are in now, starting from Ogudu area, coming to Ikeja, so that's the highest point of Lagos. But by the time you start moving down from Ushoki, going to the island, you are moving to below the sea level, going towards the Ekwe side. So those are more vulnerable than this part of Lagos. So those are the things we need to look at. So those areas are very vulnerable, Ikoyi, Lagos Island, and several others, Lekki side and so on. So we need to constantly deflood them to ensure that the drains are kept clean and so on. Once you are able to retain the water in the drains and so on, at least you are able to mitigate the incidence of flooding.
But there's some areas that are close, pardon me, to some water bodies like the Ogun, that whole stretch. And from time to time, some of those rivers are opened such a way that it affects the areas close to that. So is that also put into consideration?
We normally take into consideration. We normally work with the Ogun River Basin Authority. We are in touch with them. We discuss regularly and we meet regularly to ensure, particularly as rain begins to get intense and so on. Now, let me tell you about the Ogun River Basin. We must ensure that the dam, the Ogun River Dam, is not just released anyhow. So, particularly during the rainy season, it is designed for the dam to overflow. So, normally we negotiate with the authority to ensure that the water are systematically reduced so that it does not flood. Because apart from the entry to Ogun River, there are many other tributaries that enter into the rivers, and to the extent that if you release your water and then those other water that are coming, automatically this side of Lagos, that is Isheri, going towards Owode, Oniri, and so on, we are likely to be flooded because Ogun River discharges through that side, through that part of Lagos, into the lagoon. So we must ensure that during the rainy season, the Ogun River Basin Authority must be thoroughly engaged so that what happened last year does not repeat itself.
So they weren't properly engaged perhaps last year, is that what you're saying?
No, they were engaged, but it just going to a stage, the intensity of the rain was so much that some of them were not even predicted accurately. So to the extent that when the water came, particularly towards the end of the month, so towards the end of the year and so on, there was nothing Ogun River would do. They had to release the water because the water otherwise, and if the dam should burst, we're likely to be in a serious problem. So they had to release all the water.
But is
so
there
most
any
of these
way,
areas were affected.
Is there any way that Lagos maybe notify residents in some of those other areas, maybe if you have information that those dams will be opened anytime soon, such that they know what to do, because there are so many people who are taking unawares on that?
Normally, we tell Lagosians that please be clear. This is if you live in a low-lying areas, you need to move because the way the rain is coming and the way the water is going to be released, we are likely to be more vulnerable. Particularly those who live along Isheri Magodo area, particularly the riverine area of that site, up to Wode and so on. So they are more vulnerable at that.
What's the worst-case scenario that is in consideration by government, and what are the plans? What's the worst-case scenario? 270-something days, that's a lot. What's the worst-case scenario that Lagos State government is considering?
I don't pray for worst-case scenario. But what I know is that if we all collaborate, and I mean collaboration on the part of the government, local governments, state government and local governments, and we work with the residents associations, and so we are all able to work together as we used to work in the past. I don't envisage much problem. I don't even envisage much problem this year. If we all work together and so on. I don't think there should be any fear, really. No,
because part of your this one is part of the conversations, because any minus there means that's the lowest point. And
look at that.
Stuff like that.
Yes. Lagos Island, minus 25.
Yeah.
And Alimosho, 77. That's the highest point, which you mentioned.
Exactly. And up to Ikeja. You can see Ikeja too. You can see Koshofe. Coming from Koshofe, you can see that's the highest point of Lagos. But by the time you now move to Ajiro Minfelo to go to Lagos Island and so on, you are going below the sea level. I
also see that part of the document that this particular document includes what you call relief camps in the event of high cases of disaster. What's the plan there?
We've always had relief camps.
Okay.
We've always had relief camps and so on.
But unfortunately, it seems that many people don't know about that, really.
No, we control it because wherever there's an emergency, we normally take people there. It's in Alimosho. So normally the camp is open and so on. When we had problems in Lagos Island, when we had problems, when there was fire disaster, we've taken a lot of people. When we had even flood disaster last year, when people were taken there. So it's normally managed by the Minister of Special Duties and so on. So we normally take people there.
What kind of experiences have you had using those camps over the years?
It's people who have used the camp, we have used the camp that should be able to tell you better. They've been well taken care of. We have never ever had any complaints about using the camp.
A good thing Lagos has done this. Yes. But the thing about it is that, well, you have to think for other states, because what happens in those other states will affect Lagos.
Yes.
So did you do some sort of analysis as well to see what's happening in those other neighboring states and how it's going to affect Lagos?
No, we have to be very concerned about Ogun State, because River Ogun is very important for us in Lagos. We have about 6 rivers that actually enter Lagos, but Ogun River is more critical. There's Osun River. Osun River also enters Lagos through Epe, but the most critical one is Ogun River. So the other river those ones are easy to manage and so. But Ogun River, we have to constantly measure, we have to constantly watch it, because there are a lot of developments along that lines and so on. And don't forget, like I said, the dam, the Oyon Dam, that is sited. It's also, the way the water comes from there must also enter Ogun River. And there are about 16 rivers, tributaries and so on, that also enter Ogun River. So when it's raining, heavily, we are going to have, we are going to have a serious impact on Lagos. Unlike when you move towards Badagry, there are River and several others, they are of minor implications, really.
When you talk about, engagement,
Yes.
stakeholders, we should work together.
Yes.
And, we touched on that information dissemination earlier on, but I'd like us to really talk about it, because that's usually the concern when this happens. People say, we didn't know. I mean, I know someone who said she slept, and at midnight, the water level was almost at her bed.
Yes.
And just like that, she had to move away, abandon things in the house. And this is the story of a lot of people. So what are the channels that people can look to say, this is where we'll get the information from? Perhaps a website, on Twitter, on Facebook, that you can get up-to-the-minute information that, you know what, in the coming days, the water level might rise, so you should take action.
Yeah. Let me begin from, we engage a lot of resident stations regularly and so on. They come and so on. They also, through their complaints and so on, when we meet them, you pass the information to them normally. I've mentioned the telephone number. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and several others, which we normally, we discharge. We release our information to them so that which they can easily reach us on all those things.
But by the way, one of our viewers just said they need to hear that number again. So please, one more time, can you give out that number?
Okay, 810-255-3775.
That's 0810.
Yeah.
Okay.
255.
Right.
3775.
All right.
Lagos, I think you may have to consider, if you haven't at all, because yes, you've done this, but taking it further, because you can never get enough engagement of the people, because you always have one or two persons who say, well, I didn't get this information, I didn't hear this part.
Of course.
Is there any way that you're thinking about putting certain things on the roads, in some of these high points and low points, if there are notification in those areas, letting them know, look, this area, this is what you may likely face during the rainy season? Are you thinking about something?
Oh, we are going to do a lot of advocacy in that regard and so on. I've told about community engagement. We're also going to do through the local governments, because local governments are also reach the streets and as well. So the areas that are highly vulnerable, we need to constantly engage them and so on to be well aware. We are going to publish our numbers, how you can reach us on Instagram, on Twitter, etc. We're going to publish it constantly to let people know, be aware of the. We are going to use television and so on to let them know. We've always done that before. And we are going back to that now, and we are going to do that.
Is there any role, any collaboration with the federal government in this case?
Oh, we are ready to to collaborate with the federal government in whatever area, because we are going to have in terms of ecological front, because the government controls ecological fronts. There are many areas that are eroded whenever it rains. They are very vulnerable. You are going to have a lot of erosion, and so we have several in Lagos. We have towards Lekki, we have in Agege, and several others, and so on. We need the federal government assistance to assist. You have breach encroachment along moving towards the Chevron side, towards Lekki, or going towards Aja side. And look at the seaside. You see a lot of places have been encroached upon, and so on. We need federal government assistance in that regard as well. And many are still going to happen.
Okay, so if people have got questions, you can always forward them. We'll get it across to the commissioner and to Lagos so that they can eventually respond. But information, as you heard, is very key to all of this. And we hope that people need to act and not overlook some of this information. And those estates, those resident associations, they need to let the people know, because sometimes they get this information, they don't relay them to the people.
Exactly.
And that's part of what the problem is. So now we know that the local governments have a huge role to play. So we'll hold them accountable and keep asking those questions. And so we appreciate your comment on this morning. Tunji Bello, Commissioner, Ministry of Water Resources and Environment in Lagos. Thank you and well done.
Thank you very much.
We're back in a moment. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. Let's take a look at some feedback. Well, this is from Adogoke Olawale. He says, concerning the Lagos rainfall outlook, yeah, I knew there would be one or two things on that. I stay at Koshofe local government area, Oworoshoki, precisely, and I can categorically tell you that we need your intervention. Me? Okay, that's Lagos State. Your intervention at Okeri Street. The canals are blocked and the landlords are not willing to open the canal.
you know, that's something else. Another Twitter user said, Ola Shubomi Odunsi, talking about the canals in Lekki, VI, especially Adetokunba, Demola, Joshua Adeogun. I mean, goes on and on. So I think this is worth looking into by the government. This next one is from Zimo's blog. It's about the Lagos pipeline explosion, saying, why is it that it is when disasters strike that we suddenly realize things were never done right? As we speak right now, gas depots, filling stations are built in residential areas, and people build houses right under power lines, and we do nothing.
Well, these are some of the issues we have raised, you know, in the course of this week. Hopefully, government at various levels and the agencies are listening and will take appropriate action. Well, this one is on our first conversation this morning. Henry Onono says the judiciary should by now discern the sinister implications and adverse side effects on their image and continued relevance should it not adopt a studied approach to adjudicating political, partisan, and electoral matters. The handwriting on the wall is ominous.
Yeah, so there you go. Well, about those comments, we'll see what we can do with the Lagos State authorities concerning those questions that you've raised. Don't forget, we all have a huge role to play here.
Yeah.
Once you look out, he said local governments, they have a certain role and responsibility. There are certain numbers that you can call when you need to. So that is the show today. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
I'm Kayode Okikiodu.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a beautiful day.